A man who has belonged to another man learns very early to observe a master's eyes. What I saw in this man's terrified me. He owned me, as he owned all those I lived among, not only our lives but also our deaths, and that pleased him too much. His name was Erasmus Wilde. I felt a shudder go through Big Kit. I understood. His slick white face gleamed, the clean white folds of his clothes shone impossibly bright like a duppy, a ghost. I feared he could vanish and reappear at will. I feared he must feed on blood to keep himself warm. I feared he could be anywhere and not visible to us, and so I went about my work in silence. I had already seen many deaths. I knew the nature of evil. It was white like a duppy. It drifted down out of a carriage one morning and into the heat of a frightened plantation with nothing in its eyes. It was then, I believe now, that Big Kit determined, calmly and with love, to kill herself and me. This is Washington Black. It's the new novel from Esi Edugyan. It is longlisted for the Booker Prize, which is very exciting. She was also shortlisted for the Booker Prize for Half-Blood Blues, which was brilliant if you haven't read it, which is about Second World War and some jazz musicians in Germany who have to escape. I'll not tell you too much if you've not read that. But this one, Washington Black, is about a slave. He's 10 years old. He's called Washington Black, named after George Washington. And he is taken from the fields to work for one of the new masters. So the master dies right at the beginning, and his sons come to run the plantation. Now one of the sons is very keen to do it and the other one not so much. And the other one, who's known as Titch, he is really an inventor, a scientist, and it gives nothing away to say that he's trying to invent basically a hot air balloon. I say it gives nothing away because it's on the cover of the book. So he tries to invent this hot air balloon, and Titch is just the right size at 10 to fit in the basket. So really that's the reason that he gets selected. But what happens then is that he learns skills that he wouldn't have otherwise learnt. So Titch finds out that Washington can draw really well, and he starts to teach him little things about, he learns things about science and maths and all sorts of other things. And then something happens, as it always does, and they leave, or they try to leave. So that starts off a big adventure that takes both of them around the world, which obviously would be quite unusual. So it's quite a different slave narrative to like the Underground Railroad or Colour Purple or that sort of thing. Although it has got elements, lots of elements that are still about the plantation. But what Esi Edugyan tries to do is to look at ideas of freedom, and if you were taken away from that lifestyle, whether you can ever actually truly be free. And she also looks at that from the point of view of Titch, who doesn't really want anything to do with the plantation, but has to because it's part of the family. So there's questions again about him and how much he's complicit in it because he's part of that family, and what he does to try and do something different, try and do something for Washington Black, and whether or not he succeeds. So there's lots of interesting, complicated things, and also it's a really interesting adventure. And I'll not say too much about where they go, but yeah, as I said, they go all over the world and it's quite exciting as well. So it's got this really nice balance of a bit of sort of 80 days around the world with, as I said, that slave narrative. It's really worth a read. I found it really interesting. And Esi Edugyan's going to be at the festival, so she is at Waterstones Deansgate on the 17th of October. She's going to be in conversation with the journalist Anita Sethi, so it should be a brilliant night. I'm really looking forward to it.